I'm going to kind of give you a federal overview, a state overview for the Department of Agriculture on this portion of it. And again, you can follow along with your handouts there. But again, I appreciate the opportunity, Gina, inviting me and allowing me to attend.
Turned on.
Turned on. That's high tech. All right, thank you. I'm already challenged this morning. All right, I'm going to give you just a little bit of the Department of Agriculture where I come from, because there's some information out there, misinformation, and I'm not want to be negative. My intent is not to be negative, say the Department of Agriculture can or can't do this. I just want, what my intent is for you to realize what we statutorily can and cannot do. Summer and I have this conversation routine regularly, what agency can do what. But again, if you look under the code, we're Chapter 19, we're primarily responsible for animal disease. We're agriculture. We have no statutory authority for animal shelters, rescue. We have some resources and we will assist and we will do what we can. But as a former deputy commissioner says, Roy, be careful where you're going. We don't have statutory authority in an area that you're dealing with. But fortunately, with Commissioner Douglas as well as former Commissioner Douglas as well as Commissioner Helming, they've allowed us a lot of latitude. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So, but again, here's some things we can do, what we can and can't do. Something else that just came out this year, and it's still in the process of being developed, is a livestock care standards boards. The legislator last year established this law, and by legislative rule, they're supposed to develop some guidelines and some things for the care and well-being of livestock. So basically, this is a work in progress. They've just met a time or two, so it's really in its infancy stages. Something that was passed in the legislative session last year, where they updated the livestock trespassing law. I mean, many of you may have issues with that, but basically it defines some of the criminal penalties and what you can and cannot do. I think it further defines the procedures, and basically it's up to the sheriff in the respective county to be responsible for it. Now, he can delegate that, but ultimately it gets the sheriff. So that's something that's new. And I think some of you was probably involved with some of that legislation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she can address that just a little bit later. So that's an updated livestock law that put a little more teeth into it to some of your things. But those are just coming in. We've got a sign-out sheet going pass around. You'll sign it. Just kind of make sure, if you haven't seen it before you leave here today, there's some handout material and a correction sheet. So again, this is updated. In each county, again, we continue to have this discussion because we have a lot of new sheriffs. We have 55 sheriffs, and they change sometimes every 4 years, and sometimes every 8 years. So ultimately, the sheriff of each county is the humane officer, and they can designate a deputy, or they can designate another person. In some counties, they've designated animal control. They've designated another person to do that. But ultimately, the sheriff of each county is responsible as a humane officer in the county. How many of you knew that the sheriff knew that was that? Okay, some of you do not. And again, that's some of the information we want to put out. So as you, as a group, as a CERT, is working with a situation in county animals, ultimately the sheriff in each county, and I realize in a lot of counties it's not real high on a priority. In some counties it is. It's amazing the diversity of West Virginia, which is unique about West Virginia, our whole diversity. But again, we've got the situation that the sheriff is ultimately responsible for the destruction, if it works out, if that needs to be done, etc. And again, this is in your handout material. Another area as the Department of Agriculture we deal with from the federal level is the Federal Emergency Support ESF function number 11. How many of you have heard of ESF 11? Okay, a few of you have. Basically, it's a federal presidential directive that directs certain things to happen on the national level. And one of them is responding to animal plant diseases, food safety, and some other things. It works through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. We have a representative that we deal with regularly. When we have something going on, Tony DeMarco will call up and say, do you need assistance? From the Department of Agriculture's perspective, that's our federal point of contact if we need resources. In this particular last year this time. I'll explain to you just a little bit. We were contacting them regularly. Another thing that many of you are familiar with is the Pets Evacuation Transportation Act. I know Bill's going to explain a little bit how that works at his level, what it worked into, but basically it was a law that was signed as a result of Hurricane Katrina. It amends the Stanford Act. Each county is supposed to have a county emergency management plan that deal with animals. Some of our counties do, some of our counties don't. But by the Robert Stanford Act, and I think there were some directives put out by the Division of Homeland Security Management asking those respective counties to do that. Of really significant value to you all is if they have a plan, and it's a plan of record. It's a record that you have a plan that you can pull it out. These agencies, the County Emergency Management Agency, can actually sign a memorandum of understanding with a third party. Could sign a memorandum of understanding with a particular CERT, community organization, or whatever. And if there's an event going on, those agencies can actually be reimbursed for 75%. There's this typical federal state requirement, 25% local, but you can actually do a 75%. So if you're an agency that's an animal response and you're interested, my recommendation would be to contact your county emergency management directors. And we've got two of them, Tom Cooper from Tyler County and Paula from Greenbrier County. So if I'm saying something wrong, you all point me in the right direction.
The state usually picks up that 25%.
Okay, state.
All
right. But if an organization within a respective county said, hey, we're kind of interested in maybe taking the lead or assistance, and they want to work through the County Emergency Management Agency director, this is a good opportunity to make that County Emergency Management directors, first of all, make them aware that an agency exists. And as Tom and Paula can experience, when you're going through a large-scale event, last year, animals sometimes is not real high on the priority list. So if you can get another agency, another responsible party for doing that, that relieves them tremendously on the resources. They can concentrate on some other areas. So again, if you're an agency or organization and you think, hey, we can, and it defines, there's an eligible cost that will tell you exactly what you can and cannot get reimbursement for. So, okay, again, Katrina, some pictures, okay, the Pet Act, and there's actually a plan that has put out that kind of walks through this. I'm on the board of directors of a couple of national organizations, and one of the things that's been talked about at the national level, and particularly a lot of the other states, are developing memorandum of understandings with various nonprofit organizations, HSUS, and some other organizations. I have actually developed two memorandum of understanding for these two respective agencies, ASPCA, National Animal Rescue and Sheltering Coalition. We prepared them. Jimmy Jeanette has reviewed them. He has sent them to the Attorney General's office for the state level, for a state level organization type of thing that we can actually develop a state level so we don't have to do it on 55 county agencies or 55 counties, if that's the direction that a county wants to go in. Right now, we've actually run into some language question. I know it's hard to believe, but the legal folks have gotten involved with it. I knew that was going to be a problem. I knew it was going to be a problem, but it's nothing I don't think we can't overcome. We're going to have to go back and review. So at the state level, we have submitted two memorandums of understanding that the state will pick up the 25% and the 75% can be reimbursed. So that's, as of last week, I talked to Jimmy and he said, I know. So Jimmy's trying to work another angle on this thing, but I don't think there's any way around this identification issue. So sometimes we need to talk maybe a little bit. Maybe you've got some suggestions or you've seen it work in other states. The state of West Virginia, I don't think is going to budge. It's a standard across-the-board language type thing. So we are working on that. So the reason I tell you that is at the local level, if you want to develop a memorandum of understanding as a local agency with your county, I would recommend you go ahead and do that and don't wait on this. I can see some issues with this still to be worked out. Okay, to assist with the Stanford Act, Department of Agriculture, there were some workshops we held in conjunction with some other things. We actually developed a template, and many of the counties used that. I think Tom used it, Paula used it. Many of the counties actually used that. It was nothing magical. I mean, it was just folks said, with the county emergency management director said, hey, we're busy, we got all these other things, we need some guidance. So this was something the Department of Agriculture developed and put out, and it's a tool for you to use. Some of the counties we've got them back, and some of the counties, have not had the opportunity to respond back. And what we want, so to do that, we put that out. And the state of West Virginia in 2007 actually developed emergency. If you go to Annex X under the Animal Services, actually developed a Animal Services Emergency Operations Plan. If you look at it today, it puts the Department of Agriculture in charge of this whole program. As I said before, we have no statutory authority to do this. We're doing it kind of out of, it's the right thing to do, nobody else is doing it type thing. So if you go to the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management website, you will see this. However, again, in the entire state emergency operations plan, if you look from everything, from A to double Z, whatever they are, droughts, food, everything, that whole thing is under review. It's been under review for a while to come in with some NIMS compliance. Paula, Tom, you want to, what's the latest on that? Have you heard?
No, I don't know about the state.
State emergency plans are trying to update to get it in compliance with some federal changes, some presidential directives and some things that's been changed. So we're trying to work on that. And again, we developed the annex, it was distributed for the counties to complete. Some completed, some did not. But again, it's another tool to get reimbursement if you have a plan. If your local county has a plan and you're going to deal with animal issues and you're thinking about you want to reimburse, this is just kind of a guideline to help you develop that. Again, some did and some did not. Department of Agriculture, again, our primary concern is agriculture. Our marching orders is to protect animal, plant, human, and we'll do other things that we can to assist other agencies as our resources permit. So we've got about 360 employees statewide. Issues. One of the things I want to bring up is if you have an issue that causes you to seize a quantity of live animal, and specifically livestock, very specifically livestock. If you go out and your organization is involved with some type of seizure, some type of situation going on that you think you're going to be retrieving or quarantine or getting livestock, please advise the Department of Agriculture. We'll assist you before you move those animals. What we won't want to get into, in a lot of these situations where you go out to on these animal response incident situations, is the animals have been neglected, they're abused, they're not in the best of health. So based upon that, they may have picked up some type of virus, bacteria, or something that we don't really want spread throughout the agriculture animal community. So if you run into a situation like this, let us know. We'll have field staff come out and examine the animals, take some samples, and there's not a clear definition of, it's kind of flexible based upon the circumstances. But just recently, we had a situation where large quantities of poultry was seized. They took it to the local animal shelter, which is fine. That's exactly what they should have done. There was not an issue with that. Probably run into, it was in close proximity to an agriculture industry in West Virginia that's very biosecurity sensitive. Very biosecurity sensitive. So as a result, based upon the test that was done before those chickens left that animal shelter, we actually depopulated them for biosecurity reasons. We did not want to impact the local poultry economy there. So if you have a situation that you've seized, that you have animals in possession, particularly on the livestock, please let us know. We'll come out, we'll assist you, and if need be, if resources permit, on the transportation, particularly on the disposal, if there's an issue with depopulation, animal diseases, biosecurity, we've got some resources that we can assist you with. So, and particularly if you're in the poultry industry area, if you're in those 7 primary counties, Greenbrier, Monroe, somewhat of Fayette County, and the 5 eastern panhandle counties where poultry if you wipe out the poultry industry, you wipe out a good portion of their economy there. So we want to do anything that we can to assist and prevent the degradation of the poultry industry. And the same thing goes with horses, cattle, etc., sheep. We'll test them prior to the removal of the farm. Okay. How many of you, a year ago, what were you all into about this time last year? I know all of you all were involved in some event as far as Hurricane Sandy. One of the things we got into, and some of you all were involved with this, and we'll explain to you just a little bit here, was we were receiving some animal food. As far as the Department of Agriculture, we've been involved with some of those type things throughout the last few years. And again, if it involves agriculture, or if it doesn't involve agriculture, we can assist you, we will. We've been involved with transporting on the turnpike there where they have trucks overturned. How many of you are aware of that in Hardy County on Saturday, December the 14th, the Hardy County Extension agent as well as some other folks up there are putting on a training, a one-day training, it's a Saturday training from 8 to 5 to Wardensville Farm, West Virginia University, on how to respond to livestock incidents. Have you aware of that? Okay. What I will try to do, that sign-in sheet, if I can get a copy, I'll try to distribute that information to all of the county emergency management directors get credit for that. I don't know, it's in Hardy County. We're going to try to do one possibly maybe next spring. Franklin Chapman's talk, maybe try to do one in the southern part of the state. We'll try to send information on that. But again, this is some of the type things we do, just give you an idea of what the Department of Agriculture does. All of our employees must plead IS 700 and ICS 100 during the orientation. They're given a packet and given a month to complete. We actually have 2 incident management teams. We have 3 people assigned to each of the 8 positions, plus a lot of our operations positions. And again, much like you all, it's a constant training because of the turnover rate and keeping people's interest. So we actually have some incident management team trainings. One of the things we got involved with this time last year was Superstorm Sandy. Again, I'm not going to read all the details. I'm going to show you a little bit of pictures and it'll kind of explain to you just a little bit what we actually got into. This is an aerial view of a farm in Preston County. Right in the center area here, this was, the initial report was there was 60-some head of cattle that was trapped in that facility. We had senior management go by, take a look at it. National Guard said they couldn't do anything. Highway said they couldn't do anything. So Commissioner Douglas at the time authorized to go in and for purely a health issue, because at this point, this is near Cranesville in Preston County. You can look out the farm and see, you can see Maryland. Ended up being, we were able to, the reason we did it, the owner had no resources. There were so many widespread. Preston County said they absolutely had no resources to be able to deal with this, with all the other issues going on. And our biggest thing was the health and human of the people and of also of the animals. After this further discussion, it was determined that this many dead animals was a human health issue as well as an animal issue. So the biosecurity, the disease aspect, we really need to do something with it. Got a contractor here on Sunday morning. We worked out an emergency purchase order on Saturday evening. Sunday morning, the contractor showed up. He started digging through, trying to get out. At this point, we were not exactly sure. The property owner was still saying 40-some head of dead cattle in this thing. So he went through, the contractor. This was kind of after we found numerous head of cattle within the facility that was buried. So they were removed. We put them in a roll-off dumpster and took them to the landfill for proper disposal. Fortunately, we submitted this to FEMA, and FEMA reimbursed the Department of Agriculture under the health issue. Apparently this is not something that's normally done, FEMA reimbursement, so this solidified our health and animal health issue. So we were fortunate. Commissioner Douglas at the time said, we'll eat the cost, that's what it takes. But lease-wise, FEMA has recognized that this is an issue when you have this large number of dead animals. Montana, many of you have been reading out west there in the last few weeks. I don't know how they're disposing. I can't comprehend what those folks are going through, not only the loss, but just the logistics of disposing. This is the county extension agent in Preston County. This is part of her barn that fell down. And many of you are very familiar with these scenes throughout. You've dealt with them on your own. Again, there's part of a barn that right in here lost a few animals right in this area here. Barn, we were in it, took pictures. The barn was built in the early 1800s. This is the worst damage it's ever sustained. So 1800, there were some dates it was engraved onto the barn. Okay, again, Commissioner Douglas authorized to do this. And Sunday afternoon, after we determined the number of head of cattle that had died, there were several head of cattle that was roaming in the feedlot there. And as a contractor, the contractor was working through. We was there overseeing the thing, and I have nothing but praise. My kind of heart for you folks as citizens in the community come in and help us folks. These folks were in the same similar situation. No electric, had issues at home, no power, had their own cattle. But Sunday afternoon, you can't see it because the snow was so deep, but there was trucks lined up through here, about 30 members of the community. It wasn't organized, it was a spontaneous type thing that they realized that a fellow farmer needed assistance. The local Preston County market brought in panels, and this is private trucks. They loaded up 50-some head of cattle and took them to their respective farms. I had nothing but praise. And it was not only West Virginia volunteers, but there was folks from Maryland that came over. The word got out. I don't know how the word got out because they didn't have any phones, telephones, emails in that area. They didn't even know, this was on Sunday, these particular folks didn't even know that they had a shelter set up because the snow was so bad. So this is a week, almost a week into it. And these folks, the owner of the animal said, we didn't even know there was shelter. We didn't know there was water available. We didn't know there was, but yet volunteers, this West Virginia citizens, came in and assisted this gentleman. That just makes me, so this again, they brought in things to assist. All right, some of the things that we do have Department of Agriculture can be of assistance to you. Again, this is just kind of give you a little bit of a rundown type of things, so some of the things that we have that we can make available. Get a hold of me. My information is on that sheet. I'm the point of contact. It's 24/7. Just give me a call. And if you have any issues or something you think we can help you with, we'll work through you. May not always get the answer that you want, because again, we're primarily geared towards the agriculture community. The pets, we'll do what we can to assist you in any shape or form. We've got trailers. We've got about 19 different trailers, different types of things. We've got some decontamination units, etc. Again, here's some of the things. I know some of you all have seen the UC Davis large animal list, some of the glides. We've got 270 collapsible animal crates and associated bowls. We've got 90 of them stored at Moorfield in a complex over there, and the rest of them are donated food soon in Jackson County. So if we can be of assistance to you on those are there for exist. We've got farms at Huntsville, Cooneytown, and Henderson. We'll work with you if you have large animals, quantity of animals that need to be. They're very protective also because of the disease situation. And just a picture of some of the equipment, response equipment we have, etc. Some of the trailers that we've got, the command post. This is a decon unit. This is the same thing that the hospitals have, the rapid response team has. Here's our panels. We've got 36 panels, 10-foot sections, and this is our equipment trailer. And we've got if you have a situation you need portable corrals, we've taken these to different places. We've taken them down to the turnpike and actually set them up there and try to round up cattle situation. Again, a little bit of the response, what I was telling you about a little bit earlier, what I was telling you about, we sent out to the counties. And we went through, I'm not going to pass out a copy of that for everybody because that's a work in progress. I wanted to get you all's input. There's a copy floating around somewhere that says correction. If you see resources for those folks that come in a little bit later, it's not in your county, add them to the list. and we're going to follow up with them and try to get some information back out. But it was kind of interesting. And Summer and I was talking. I had no idea. Individually, we know, and I kind of know, Paula kind of knows, Tom kind of knows individually, but when we kind of went through and totaled this thing up, there appears to be, and I say approximately, but there appears to be about 14 trailers in the state that has animal response equipment in it. I did not have any idea. And 5 of them, we know where 5 of them are at. 5 of them are in Homeland Security Region 4. And a few years ago, they went together collectively as a region and identified that they needed animal sheltering, they needed sanitary facilities, and they needed human shelter. So they went through and bought those 3, and they bought 5 sets of them. So there's 15 sets, 15 of those units in Homeland Security Region. And Bill's going to talk about that here in just a little bit. They're the recipient of one of those, that setup. So that's kind of interesting. I talked to Jim and Jeanette and talked to the others. Nobody seems to have an idea. So again, this is a starting point. We're just trying to get an idea of what some of the resources are. Fayette County, you know, if nothing else, you can say you have nothing in your county, least-wise, this will be a starting point. You'll know who to pick up the phone and call and say, what about do you have, type thing. All these, and I stand to be corrected, and you guys can correct me here, most of these things, I believe, have been bought with some type of federal grant dollars. Most of them, I believe. So one of the conditions of federal grant dollars is that they're susceptible to going anywhere. Obviously, there are some issues of who's going to manage it, who's going to control it, who's going to take care of it. They're just not going to hand you a trailer and say, here's a trailer, go do what you want to it. From a guy who takes care of 30-some pieces of equipment, I'm not going to do that. If I go, my stuff's going out, leastwise the rolling stock, I'm going to go with it or have one of our employees go with it. We're just not going to turn a trailer over. But that's work. We can do that. But the important part is that leastwise it's kind of spread out. And Jim Rose is going to talk a little bit about his stuff here in a few minutes too. Okay, we have no statewide team. We've pretty well come to the conclusion that it's not going to work at the state level. We've tried in the past for livestock, for animal, we've tried to put together, it's not going to work. There's not enough interest. You can't organize it. You can't manage it. So, part of the survey was that we've asked, do you have teams? 12 of the counties responded, and again, you're going to hear some of those team folks this morning that's going to tell you about. They put on their sheet teams. Now, a couple of these I know they indicated is their animal control folks. That's fine. If that's what they call a team in their county, that's fine. I'm not going to define, well, it's only got 3 people, it's animal control, it's not a team. If you define, if you got a group of folks that you can pick up the phone and say, we had this issue, can you help? If it's a part-time, if it's full-time, if it's volunteers, it doesn't make any difference. A resource is a resource if they're willing to assist. And again, we've got, Summer's going to talk here just a little bit about her program and some other things. So there's some non-problems. During Hurricane Superstorm Sandy last year, we delivered food to PERS. Did not know they existed. It was interesting. I was sitting at 4 o'clock, 4 foot of snow in Preston County, doing a national conference call, and I thought I was the only person from West Virginia. At the end of the conference call, somebody said they were from West Virginia. I said, who in the world else is on here from? Who even knows this exists in the rest of the world? And it was the lady from PERS. Now, how she got, now off the phone, we talked a little bit later, but there was a connection that we made. So again, I was on a national conference call, learned the resources that was 3 counties over that I didn't know existed. She didn't know we existed. You all are networking. You're going to hear a little bit from us, but equally, if not greater importance, learn from each other. Sheltering issue. Many of you are involved with shelterings. Most, as you know, most of the shelters in today's West Virginia counties are grossly underfunded, grossly understaffed, any other word that you want to put on. Where does animals relate in relation to overall things going on? Okay. They're operating at near capacity on daily. Lack of funding. Again, most of them are county commission funded, no organized voice forum. It's an informal network. You all, by your virtue of being here this morning, you're networking. You're knowing each other, you know, trying to learn a little bit about each other. Some of the other issues we run into, the Red Cross, just by their nature of what they do, they don't allow animal and people shelters. There's no organized. I'm hoping throughout this process, including you all, whether you get a little bit of an organized voice, get organized going. Right now it's very informal. The other issue we run into is that there's a lack of perceived need for shelters. And that's not always correct. Also, we run into there's not a large demand for shelters because West Virginians, by and large, what do we do? What do we do in Tyler County?
They can stay with a friend or neighbor.
Exactly right. You don't have large groups of folks coming together in shelters that you do in some of the other areas. So as a result, there's not a large need for sheltering for animals. That's great, because the more folks that you can get to take care of their own animals, that's less that you have to do, that's more resources that you can devote to other areas. And Summer's going to talk about a little bit, I think, on how you prepare yourself so we don't have to rely on other organizations. I'm not saying we don't want to. We need to have that networking. We need to have those resources identified. But if folks can take care of themselves, then they're much better off. That's one less thing that you have to do, because if you're impacted by Hurricane Sandy or the snowstorm and you're trying to take care of yourself, you know, how much are you going to be of benefit to these other folks? But again, these are just some of the thoughts that we've run into over the last few years as far as sheltering issues are concerned. Katrina, you've all heard the story on that. Jerry Beckett, Huntington Fire Chief down there in 2006, he will tell you that in the west end of Huntington, folks would not leave their home, even though coal tar was running through the sanitary system there. Folks was turning off lights, pulling curtains. There was two issues why they wouldn't leave homes. Their animals, because they had no place to take them, and second, the medication issue. Superstorm Sandy, again, a lot of issues. And you can kind of go through your own respective county or community and say, what would we do? And just recently, there was a large number of assisted living folks. What did they do with their pets when they had to be relocated? Types of shelters is something that you all are familiar with. There's basically 3 or 4 different types of sheltering. The ideal situation, right here. Residents can take care of their own animal. If you get into this is very labor intensive, and you're going to talk about that just a little bit here, I believe. Okay, again, I mentioned a little bit Superstorm Sandy. We were very, very fortunate. Friday morning we got a call from FEMA. Jimmy Jeanette's shop said, would you all like to, PetSmart said, would you like to have some animal food? Yeah, had no details. First time anybody ever called West Virginia and said, do you want something? So we were already, the Department of Agriculture was already in the process of coordinating, facilitating the meals ready to eat, bottled water and stuff. So they called Friday morning, says we got a tractor trailer, can be there this evening. We'll bring about 40,000 pounds of dog food. We had no idea what it was, how it was packaged, where it was coming from, where we were going to unload it, what we were going to do with the stuff. Fortunately, the National Guard spoke up and said, yeah, you can bring it up here. We'll just use the point of distribution out here on the tarmac. We sent out Friday afternoon, sent out a message to the 55 county manager directors saying, we've got food coming in, do you need it? We received requests from 9 of the county emergency management directors. So we were using the same process that we were already into for the meals, MREs, the water, and baby formula. So basically we end up distributing to the 9 county emergency management directors' requests. At the end, we actually didn't arrive until, we thought it was coming Friday, didn't actually arrive until Sunday. It created a little bit of head problems because we were telling the county emergency management we're bringing it out. Where do you want it unloaded? We don't know what it is. For some logistical issues that we had no control over, they actually ended up getting 22 tons on Sunday afternoon. Then the second trailer came on Monday morning. Upon the process, we got it out to those folks and said, yep, we have a need, yep, we need to do this. And at the end, the leftover stuff we were able to retrieve or to distribute to some animal shelters and humane organizations in the non-impacted county. So we were very, very fortunate. So I'll have nothing but praise for PetSmarts. They voluntarily gave us 80,000 pounds of dog food. And some of you may have been the recipients of some of that. Yes?
I'd like to, I don't know if you talk, or planning on talking about it, I think it's necessary for these folks we need to talk about the problem you have with the storage.
Absolutely. We all have said some of us have said we've got trailers, we've got equipment, we've got supplies. Be very cautious about buying up a lot of food, particularly in the bag style. Now, if you want to buy cans of stuff, or stuff that's a little more perishable type of things, non-perishable where it's in cans, but be careful about buying up. The issue we run into about getting this food on Friday morning, I was already concerned what we were going to do with it when this event was over, where we were going to put it. Our own donated food says you're not bringing it here. We contacted the two food banks in West Virginia that said you're not bringing it here. There's some precedent in our own organization, including Department of Agriculture, some preconceived ideas that you cannot put dog food and cat food in the same warehouse as people food. Scientifically, there's no reason for it. It's a perceived idea. We say, all right, we'll put it on this side of the warehouse. Nope, can't be in the same warehouse. Then they got into the whole rodent issue. What are you going to do if this stuff is here for 2 weeks, 2 months? We're going to eat. Well, what do they do now in your food warehouse? What do you do for rodent control? So you get into that whole thing. And these are professional warehouses. So as a county, be cautious about buying up, Jim, is that where you're going? About buying up a lot of food, even if you have it donated. You're better off is to have a resource or a source that will allow you to get this. You want to have a little bit, and I don't know what the definition of a little bit is. It wouldn't hurt to have a little bit that you can safely control, but you really want to have resources or sources where you can go get the stuff, because you're going to get into expirations, you're going to get into rodent issues, perceived or non-perceived. So is that what you're thinking, Jim?
Yeah.
Just be cautious if you think, and fortunate, because again, on Friday morning when I was on the call, I said, what am I going to do if this stuff doesn't, if we don't get rid of all of it? But we were very fortunate. We were able to get rid of it. We distributed to the counties, went to the county humane organizations, etc. So again, if you're involved with the animal planning, think about not necessarily what you have today, but what can you get tomorrow? What can you get this evening? Who do you have contacts with? The local Southern Supply, the local feed store, the local whoever. Part of your plan needs to be, Paula's worked on this, she's done an excellent job, I know Tom has, it's not only what you have in stock, but what's the other part? Who do you contact, right?
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's about. It's that networking. It's today on Monday morning calling Southern States at Rosford and say, hey, if we have this going on, what do you think about it? And working through them, right?
Yeah, set it up ahead.
Set it up ahead. That's the key to it, setting up ahead. Yes, sir.
Monroe County, we've been talking a bit about getting a comics box that would be rodent proof, because we get donations of food from various places, and then it'll last for a couple of weeks, but where do you store it?
Exactly.
Hand it out, but a comics, so we need to find a comics box, but so if anybody knows where we can acquire one, I appreciate it, but that's an answer to part of that, is it's rodent control and it's local.
Yep, exactly right.
The other important thing is after talking to Roy around this issue, and another gentleman working for the health department, Stan Mills, who actually happens to be on one of those warehousing things, there is absolutely no legal authority to turn away food from a food warehouse. It's considered food quality grade for human consumption. And the problems induced by it are no greater than other foodstuffs.
Yep. But the takeaway from this whole thing is, Jim, thanks for bringing that up, and Paul, is not what you have today. Obviously, you need to have some, but what can you get today, tomorrow can sustain you for your event that's going on. Okay, again, it's just a little bit. This is the first time there was us and New York was the two states that was targeted PetSmart. This had never been done on a national level before. This was the very first. We've been fortunate. We've had the opportunity to give a couple presentations at the national level. Some national organizations have had the opportunity. And they said, you all did what in West Virginia? I said, yeah, they think we're kind of, what do you all know? Well, I know this much. I know that we had General Hoyer supported this program. At the National Guard, he allowed that stuff to be unloaded. I know that General Hoyer authorized through the FEMA process Army trucks to haul food out to these respective counties. They said, and they don't even know who the national points of contact are, or the National Guards. It was just, and the New York, my counterpart in New York, they went totally different. They had to because they're geographic and the people. They actually bagged their stuff up into 6 gallon size bags. They took their bags and broke it down and put it in gallon size plastic containers. You talking about a bureaucratic nightmare trying to break up 80,000 pounds into 1 gallon bags. I can't imagine. And he's told me the worst, but they had a reason. Their folks live in high rises. They live on multiple floors. They couldn't take, for whatever reason the procedure was, they couldn't take an 8-pound bag to them. They had to break it up in gallons, or folks were coming after it. So, you know, we had issues. We didn't have any issues compared to what they had. And the size of the whole issue area up there. Okay, so again, hopefully that will happen. So if you get a request from the Division of Homeland Security, if this ever happens again, and says, do you have a need for food? Because we're actually a national meeting that's set up here at the end of the month. We're going to see how we can do this on a national. If PetSmarts and there's a couple other organizations have realized, hey, this is probably not a bad idea. We can get a little publicity out of it. We can be a benefit. Whatever it takes, we'll be the recipients of it. If that's what it takes, if we can shake their hand and say thank you very much. And I know we tried to get some thank you letters.
That's what I was going to say.
I know. And they changed hands. She completely changed hands. And now she's at the national level. So, yeah, Paula had written, was trying to write. I couldn't even.
I sent them. It might not have gone to the right person, but yeah, please set that up ahead of time.
Yeah, we'll set that up because we run into, of all the issues we run into, trying to find a person who to send a thank you to letter was harder than distributing 80,000 pounds of food.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But anyway, we're fortunate. So in the future, if we get a call, and again, we did not know until we broke the seal on the truck what we were getting. There were some cans of dog food, cat food, bags of dog food, there were some treats, and it was like they had a warehouse, and some of it was close to expiration date, which was fine. It was no big deal. I mean, just because a bag of dog food expires on November the 11th, does that mean it's not any good? No. If you're a hungry dog, it's not. All right, again, some of the positive things we learned. County Emergency Management Directors, we had some rapport with them. I can't say enough about the National Guard. Ain't saying nothing about PetSmarts. Again, we realized I learned in Preston County at 4 o'clock on Sunday evening that there was some other folks out there that didn't know they existed. We did not know that we existed. We kind of worked through some things. Again, very few human shelters actually up there during the two events. So as a result, it was the best I could determine. I don't think there was any pet shelters actually open. I know there was a shelter in Braxton County that took some animals in excess from some Nicholas County and I think some Clay County, that type of thing. Does anybody know if there's any pet shelters open? I don't have all the answers. I'm asking you all. You all were out there every day. You all know where all this stuff's at.
For the derecho, kind of a new thing that happened over our area, we had some cooling shelters opened up for pets.
Really? Where was that at?
Dr. Hodge, she opened up her business and was taking in animals for cooling.
They have a very envious situation. They have a couple of veterinarians involved with their program right here, and I know Jim's going to talk about. Veterinarians, I'd never been a veterinarian until 9 years ago, started being around a veterinarian until 9 years ago. I did not realize how they are the epitome of a small business person. If they're not in the office daily, taking care of clients, taking care of their animals, they're not bringing in money. If they're not bringing in money, they're not in business because they're not paying their staff. So if you have, that's another resource. If you have, they're very fortunate in Wood County, reach out to your veterinarians. They are the epitome of a small business person. Some of them are very gracious. Others, that's one of the reasons we got into on the statewide. It's hard to sustain a statewide team. Tom?
They're very helpful.
Very
when our search team goes out to two of the local vets, let us know when you're out. When you have your equine or your horses or dogs, if you have them out, they said, let us know. We'll be there backing up.
And
If we have an animal go down, we can call them. They give us numbers to call them directly.
fantastic. That's a resource. And how did you get that? You developed that over the period of time. You didn't wait till Sunday morning.
And just, as an emergency manager, you know how, I laugh when you said that. I'll tell you how. The hospital had supplies that expire, perfectly good things. They said, do you have any use for these? And I said, load them in the truck, I'll think of something. That's what I do best.
You got them.
Well, I went to the vets. The vets are grabbing the stuff. They take everything. They don't even look at the boxes, bring it in. And so then when I tell them what we do, they said, we'll be there for you. And they even told me that when I set out the alarm for our team, they said put them on the list, notify them.
Fantastic.
That's the type of people that are out there. If they're just great people, all of them. That's why they're in that business. You don't find very many bad vets.
But you have to reach out to them as a general rule, and you've got to work with them, and they're a part of your whole team, the whole CERT concept. They're a part of the team. I mean, it's an excellent resource. They're very professional, but you've got to just don't call them up Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. Say, can you be out here Sunday morning at 9 o'clock? Right? It's that rapport building. It's that whole resource networking.
And on the sheltering, we sent our shelter trailers to Nicholas County for their human shelters. We included the pet kennels and everything else. First thing they said when they got there is, we won't even touch it, we won't deal with it. So just keep in mind that a person, if they're not going to handle it, a person's probably going to have to go along.
Yes.
So they refuse to deal with it.
I think that's exactly right. You need to send the people with it.
Exactly.
If you have a team, if you have a trailer full of animal carrier, then you have a team to operate that, or you shouldn't have it. If you have the team, try to send the team, because where you're going already has enough problems.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it's kind of interesting if you go through the survey, and I'm glad for the resource, trust me, I'm glad for the teams. But other than some areas of the state, we've got trailers, there's nobody assigned to them, nobody knows about them, nobody knows what the stuff is in the trailer. That's where you all can become involved, as your indication here this morning. Hopefully you'll be doing that. But again, there's some of the things that we're looking at, some of the positive things that we looked at. And again, it's this networking together here this morning is as much as anything. And I had nothing but praise. When they called and said, what do you all need? We said, we've never been asked that question before in this particular area, in terms of area. And the conference call, we were on the conference calls, and again, that's where I learned that lady's name that existed. Again, some of the other things, again, agriculture is a lead issue. We have very limited authority, no authority, actually, for companion animals, but we're going to do what we can to assist and facilitate in that issue. And again, this is not to be derogatory towards county emergency management directors, because when you've got a large event going on, you've got to prioritize. And if you as a group can assist them, as your local organization can assist the Toms or the Pauls or the Als of the world, trust me, I think they'll work with you and reach out to you.
I suggest that these teams, these people here, the groups they represent, if they don't know their emergency manager, they need to.
Yes.
Go to your emergency manager, say, here's what we do, and ask them if they have the Annex X in their emergency operation plans. If they don't have it, grab a copy. I'll send you mine.
Yeah.
Take it, look it over, and then go back to the emergency manager and say, I'd like to help you implement this into your plan.
Yep.
And most of them will do it. Paul and I, we knew almost every emergency manager in West Virginia, and I don't know of any of them that would help you work with you.
Yeah. That's one less.
And we sent our plan to 4 other counties because they didn't want to deal with it, but at least they have the plan.
Yes.
So we'll, all of us will have that.
Yeah, and if your director doesn't want to, we'll help with the plan, although you can't make it official on your own.
Right.
But you can work with them and the commission. Remember, the commission is your emergency manager's boss. So if you're not satisfied for a legitimate reason, talk to the commission and ask them if your concerns are correct. Because ultimately, the commission is responsible for this.
Exactly right.
They just subcontract that out to us.
Yeah. Without any resources to do it, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
How many is anybody here from the Eastern Panhandle counties? 3 Eastern Panhandle, okay. They went together a couple years ago. Jefferson, Morgan, Berkeley, Hardy, Grant, Pendleton, Mineral in Hampshire County, and they put together a regional animal response plan. Have you all seen that one? I'll send that to you, particularly you too. But they put together a region. They didn't break it down county by county. They put together a regional plan. Jim, same thing with you guys with the Mid-Ohio Valley. Okay. All right. I get excited here, so you bear with me. I want to leave enough room for other folks to talk here. All right. So what's next? What do we do? This is a first start. How do we network together? I don't know. You all got the answers. I don't have any magical answers. We now have, at least what I think, a starting point, this animal response survey. That's a starting point. That's all it is. It's not a conclusion. It'll never be a conclusion. It'll always be a work in progress. But eventually we're going to get it entered into E-Team so your county emergency management director can say, hey, I think I have an issue. Well, what resources are available? You've got two more progressive counties right here, in Tyler and Greenbrier County. If you're in those counties, you're lucky. You're lucky to have these folks sitting here. All right, and again, it's the same thing that you all run into. STP, right? It's the same 10 people. How many of you are involved in animals? Oh, let's see a show of hands. All right. How many of you involved, keep your hands up, that's involved in, how many are you involved in other things as a volunteer? And how many of you involved in something else as a volunteer, and something else as a volunteer, and something else? So it's the same 10 people that you are those same 10 people, and I applaud you for that. And again, I really thank you for what you all do. And it goes back to just a very prime example, even though it wasn't organized, in Preston County. When those folks came together, I said, where are these folks? Because they was telling us what it was going to take. I said, wow. All right, kind of the end result was, this was in Taylor County. This was not a stage picture, trust me. You can't get cast to stage, right?
No.
I can't. No. We were unloading a trailer load of the Whiskas cat food to this PERS facility there at the old Grafton High School. And this cat just happened to come out, saw us what we was into, and he actually got on the top of the head. This was the food that it was in. This is the boxes that it was in. And I know there was a few happy cats in Taylor County as a result of, leastwise, one delivery. All right, working together, the end result. That's what it's about. Whether it's a livestock, whether it's a horse, it doesn't make any difference. All of you obviously have some compassion for animals, or you wouldn't be here on Saturday morning at 8:30 volunteering. So trust me, I appreciate all that you all do. All right, my contact information is on the back. If you need anything, let me know.